Good afternoon. I am Andrea Chisholm with the Midday News. A special welcome if you're watching on onespotmedia.com. Several projects in the budget for this fiscal year have either been cut or disbanded as the government reduces spending to deal with the economic fallout from COVID-19. Revenues are also expected to drop by $81 billion. The cuts were outlined in the first supplementary estimates tabled in Parliament yesterday. Dashan Hendricks reports.
$15 billion has been slashed from the budget for this fiscal year as faced with falling revenues from a COVID-19 enforced slowdown of the economy. The government set about cutting its coat according to its cloth, shifting money around to find the best solution to the reality it now faces. The cut brought the budget down to $838 billion, and several projects are taking a hit. The ministry worst affected is the Prime Minister's own Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. 50% of the funds allocated for capital projects out of that ministry is gone, and the projects facing the cuts show the extent of the issue. Projects like the South Coast Highway to ring the eastern coast of the island have seen its funding for this year cut in half. Almost $13 billion was allocated for works on that road this year. Now only $6 billion is available. The Montego Bay bypass has overseen a steeper cut. 85% of the $3.8 billion set aside for that project has been taken away. Now only $500 million remains. The Rural Road Rehabilitation Project has fallen into a ditch. $400 million was allocated for that project, all of which has been taken away. Funding for the redevelopment of the closed harbor beach in Montego Bay, which is better known as Dump Up Beach, has been cut by a third, while the budget for a project to protect that city's coastline has been eroded by 2/3. Not even the plastic waste minimization project was spared. Half its budget was taken away.
And despite the cut in capital expenditure, the finance minister indicated that some projects will continue at a slower pace.
Everything had to be adjusted, including NIDS. Okay, so not NIDS and including South Coast Highway, things that are things that the government wants to do and needs to do in light of the scale of the challenge. We have had no choice but to cut back on them. Now, it's very important to recognize at the same time that for the vast majority of them, we have not stopped them, i.e. it will be other countries, because they don't have the options that we have, would have to uproot tree and branch and just stop altogether. We can continue all of our projects, but we are just going to spend less on them this year.
The COVID-19 pandemic is expected to cost Jamaica $120 billion this fiscal year. The government is also projecting that the economy will contract by 5.1%. New regulations may be coming for the business process outsourcing sectors as several employees are now working from home. Prime Minister Andrew Holness gave the update in Parliament on Tuesday, adding that several BPOs have reopened.
We may need to consider new regulations to cover that emerging new way of operating. We now have 33% of BPO workers working at home. The BPO sector is still being inspected. I believe that they have now approved over 40 BPOs to operate. Others are at varying degrees of compliance, and they are working to meet the compliance standards.
What we're hearing from the sector is that depending on the parish, the speed of the health department to do the certifications and to process the certificates, which, as you know, has to go through the SEZ authority, etc. It's uneven. Let me just say that.
Central Manchester MP Peter Bunting is therefore suggesting that steps be taken to speed up the process. Following an outbreak of COVID-19 at the Alorica call centre in Portmore St. Catherine, the government suspended office operations to ensure the BPO sector was complying with new rules. Jamaica's BPO sector earns an estimated $400 to $500 million annually. A leading official from World Health Organization says COVID-19 may never be eliminated. During a media briefing, Executive Director of the World Health Organization's Health Emergencies Program, Dr. Mike Ryan, warned that the disease may join the mix of viruses that kill people around the world every year.
Current seroprevalence, so the current number of people in our population who've been infected, is actually relatively low. And if you're a scientist and you project forward in the absence of a vaccine and you try and calculate how long is it going to take for enough people to become infected so that this disease settles into an endemic phase, and we may never, and I think it's important to put this on the table, this virus may become just another endemic virus in our communities, and this virus may never go away. HIV has not gone away, but we've come to terms with the virus, and we have found the therapies and we've found the prevention methods, and people don't feel as scared as they did before, and we're offering life to people with HIV, long, healthy lives to people with HIV. And I'm not comparing the two diseases, but I think it is important that we're realistic, and I don't think anyone can predict when or if this disease will disappear.
According to the tally from Johns Hopkins University, more than 4.3 million cases of the virus have been recorded worldwide. In the meantime, the head of the WHO says the world's health system has been compromised. The head of the WHO says while smaller economies are handling the crisis much better than larger economies, there are still some issues. Chief among them, not reaching the 2020 Sustainable Development Goals due to what he terms inequality in the sector.
How is it that in 2020, approximately 1 billion people are spending at least 10% of their household budgets on healthcare? How is it that in 2020, over 55% of countries have fewer than 40 nursing and midwifery personnel per 10,000 people? How is it that in 2020, because of a failure to invest in preparedness, we now risk backsliding on child immunization, malaria, neglected tropical diseases, and HIV?
He says the world has failed in providing a balance.
The COVID-19 pandemic is causing a significant loss of life, disrupting livelihoods, and threatening to undo much of the progress we have made. While the coronavirus is an unprecedented shock to the world, through national unity and global solidarity, we can save both lives and livelihoods and ensure that other health services for neglected diseases, child vaccination, HIV, TB, and malaria continue to both function and improve.
And it's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have much more stories right after these messages. Welcome back, and we're continuing the news. Concerns this afternoon from stakeholders in Clarendon that the hard work of nurses, doctors, and other healthcare workers is being wiped out due to disobedience of some residents. Prince Moore explains.
First responders who are dealing directly out there with the COVID patient, they are at risk all the time. They're the ones who have to go home to their family, and maybe they take the virus back home.
But those sacrifices seemingly mean very little to some residents of Clarendon, who on a daily basis gather at banks and remittance outlets with little regard for social distance guidelines. Custos of Clarendon, William Shagori, says he and other leaders in the parish have not lost hope over the situation, but fear the hard work of nurses, contact tracing staff, doctors and other healthcare workers could be in vain.
I want to thank you all for trying to save our people's lives. They are very difficult. They don't believe in social distancing, and it is a serious, serious problem we have. And if we need to emphasize for them to understand that they need to stay apart from each other. So I just want to again to thank you all for being here today. and my mask I know is a little bit low, but I can't talk with these masks.
They were speaking at the commissioning of a unit at the Jamaican Hospital on Wednesday that is expected to put the hospital at the forefront of the COVID-19 response locally.
One of the first isolation ward maybe on this planet that is set up with separate area for suspect patient and separate area for confirmed COVID-19 patient. We will give you a tour and show you the facility. And here in Maypen, I can tell you, you will never see anything like this for now.
The unit is equipped with a mini pediatric wing that can facilitate safe visits from adults should a child in their family get COVID-19. Over 20 beds are in the unit, in addition to hygiene stands and cameras.
There's also a cubicle for intensive care where ventilators are pending and maybe a BiPAP machine. Those are all pending, but the area is already set up for us to be able to do that.
Clarendon is among the parishes with the highest number of COVID-19 cases in Jamaica, with over 30 confirmed to date. Prince Moore, TVJ News.
Vendors and the local authorities in Falmouth are again at odds. As we hear in this report, the authorities have been trying to keep vendors off the streets by seizing their goods and stalls.
There are signs from some players in the tourism industry about reopening their doors, but it will be some time before things return to normal. So while that wait goes on, some of the laid-off tourism workers are having to eke out a living wherever and however they can. Some of these persons are from Trelawney and they have opted for vending in Falmouth. Some of the new jobs of the former hotel workers have not found favor with law enforcement. This man told us he's a former chef.
The hotel locked for about 6 weeks now. So what I used to do, I used to cook for the Royalton hotels. And so since it locked down, what I do for myself, I sell CD. You can see like the table right down there. This is my friend, sell shoes. My friend sell phone case, clothes also. But we have a social distance lock because people are only passing through the lane at times. So we don't really got a gathering in the lane because it's slow. Because some of the days when we come out, for weeks we don't sell our shoes. We sell like $200-300 CD, sometimes $1,000. It don't pass that because a lot of people are juggling. It's a corona time and it's very slow, so we have to do something to survive. So this is what we do for a living for now.
The vendors' biggest issue, though, is not what they are selling, but where. They have taken over a street in the town of Falmouth. The authorities have ordered no vending on that street in the town and have carried out operations to seize goods and remove stalls.
Come now to come and creep up everything. When we not have salt grain now, figure neither we brother or we sister. Is this you are trying to tell us that we must go tea from we brother and we sister? And it is hungry time now when there is nothing for us, no food on our table. Why this time now? Why? It's not fair.
We don't have pressure and we don't have the money. I don't even them not have the money neither.
The vendors claim the road in question is not under the jurisdiction of the local authorities, and so they should be allowed to utilize the area freely.
The lane I did grant to it. If you say, come off the road and go in the lane. In the lane, we have pay $2,000 every Saturday for sale. Right? Parish council get $2,000 every Saturday for sale. See them there, see the van there? They might get money for selling our lane, right? And it'll go on and go on. If we pass the lane and seize the thing, we stay in the lane. Now COVID time like this, they might tell we say, we can't sell in our lane. So what we do?
They said the road to clear on the lane, but we want to protest for the lane because we are not in the environment of the road. It's the government property. Here is not a government, it's a private property. What we're on now is selling. People are doing this for years.
O'Shane Masters, TVJ News.
Member of Parliament for East Kingston and Port Royal, Philip Paulwell, has retained legal support for the family of 24-year-old Javon Haney. Javon was eating at home on Bray Street last Saturday when he was shot and killed. It's alleged that at about 7:45 p.m., a bullet from the gun of a JDF personnel hit a woman who was also at the house before killing Javon. The soldier was reportedly part of a team patrolling East Kingston during the curfew. Mr. Paulwell said he will ensure that justice is served for Javon's death.
I have also assured the family, especially his mother, who lost her son on the day before Mother's Day, that we will stand with them. We will try to insist and make sure that the investigation is completed as quickly as possible, and that we will ensure that full justice is done in this case.
Both the Independent Commission of Investigations and JDF are probing the incident. Mr. Paulwell is urging Indicom to move quickly.
I would also like to add that this very unfortunate incident does not generally reflect on the good work that the security forces are doing in the communities or lessen my appreciation for the service being provided by the hard-working members of the JCF and the JDF. Having met with the family of Javon Haney, I have decided to retain legal representation for them, especially during this period of the investigation and the matters which might arise subsequent. I will also be retaining medical advice as well to assist them during the period of the autopsy. I think it is very important that justice is done in this case.
Mr. Paulwell adds that while measures to fight the coronavirus must be enforced, every effort must be made to preserve the lives of defenseless citizens. Seventh-day Adventist churches across Jamaica will not fully reopen for regular worship services until May 30. It will be done on a phased basis. The recommendation was issued yesterday in a letter to member churches from President of the Jamaica Union Conference of Seventh-day Adventists, Pastor Everett Brown. The government has given the go-ahead for churches to resume services starting Saturday with strict guidelines to prevent cases of COVID-19. Pastor Brown said that members must be wise and approach the full reopening cautiously. He advised that worship will continue virtually for the next 2 weeks. Pastor Brown says during that time, members should make preparations to implement the stipulated health protocols. Among other things, each member of the congregation should be 6 feet apart and temperature checks should be done before persons enter the sanctuary. And in sports, London 2012 double sprint silver medalist Johan Blake says the postponement of the Olympic Games carries significance for athletes like himself who have earmarked Tokyo as their last outing at the Games. Karen Madden has been speaking with the two-time Olympian.
The International Olympic Committee was one of the last sporting bodies to announce a postponement of the games they preside over. Little wonder though, as the prestigious games not only comes once every 4 years, but impacts on the economy of the host country. A postponed games also has implications for national sporting bodies, sponsors and fans. But arguably no group was perhaps more disappointed than the 11,000 athletes across Olympic sports. Among them is Jamaica's Johan Blake, who is searching for another global title after he became the youngest world champion in 2011. Blake has been a vital part of Jamaica's Olympic gold medal teams at recent games, and he admits the COVID-19 pandemic was a major blow.
It's very serious what's going on in the world. It's not just all about track and field, it's all about saving life and what really matters, and people are just recovering from this. Track will always be there, you know, it's just for us to get over this pandemic that is going on, and it's a next pushback because I already wanted. This is going to be my last Olympics, and now, you know, I was feeling good. Coach Gregory was having the right program. I was running good. My 400 was coming on back, and it affected me. But I've just looked forward to next year, and it will be better as well.
The Olympian also revealed the plans to hang up his spikes, which took him to lifetime best of 9.69 over 100 meters and 19.26 in the longer sprint.
Retirement was on the card. You know, I have different business I'm venturing after, but this kind of set it back a bit. But Olympics, World Championship, might be the Commonwealth Games, so I've just focused on those. I'm definitely going to do the Olympics and the World Championship and see what happened from there. My body been through a lot in track and field. I've come back from major injuries and to be running, feeling good.
And Blake weighed in on the debate over whether a vaccine is necessary before the games next summer.
Well, I've been watching CNN every day, and definitely it's like a flu-like symptoms, and it's very easily to catch. And I will agree with them, knowing that you're going to put everybody at risk when you go out there and compete and run against everybody all over the world. You might never know who have the symptom or who have it. So, well, yeah, definitely, and it's going to take 2 years. But well, I agree with them, but something will work out.
There has been much debate about the moral dilemma involved in any vaccination protocol after Serbian tennis star and world #1 Novak Djokovic said he would not want to be inoculated against COVID-19 because he's opposed to vaccination. Karen Madden, TVJ Sports.
And that's it for the Midday News. I'm Andrea Chisholm. Join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the news, sports and production teams, good afternoon.